Deadpool in recent years has become universally known as the fourth wall breaking funny anti-hero played by sexy Canadian Ryan Reynolds.
There's a penis picture of mine floating around somewhere.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
We found it.
I mean, the 2016 film, along with its 2018 sequel, were both huge hits, especially the first Deadpool film, as it proved that R-rated superhero movies could be just as profitable as their PG-rated counterparts. And as dumb as it sounds, without Deadpool, we may not have gotten R-rated movies like Logan, Suicide Squad, or even Joker. However, while both these movies were pretty well received and are some of the highest grossing R-rated movies ever made, I feel like they really cemented this idea that all Deadpool is a foul-mouthed assassin who continuously makes dumb jokes and references things like Fortnite, I don't know. And sure, that is admittedly a large part of Deadpool's character, but if you pick up any comic, you'll quickly realise that behind the dumb jokes, he is a man in desperate need of some antidepressants. Debuting initially in 1991 as pretty much a copy of the DC character Deathstroke, Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson, is a mercenary for hire who is created by Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld. You know, the guy responsible for this masterpiece. Now, the character's backstory is all over the place, mainly because Deadpool's brain is fried, but the bullet points are he got the Walter White disease, joined the Weapon X program to try and cure himself, was experimented on, was horribly disfigured as a result of said experiments, became slightly insane, but also developed a healing factor that cured his cancer. From here, the characters went through a plethora of different comic book runs, going from a one-off villain to a fan favourite anti-hero, doing such notable things like being cursed to look like Tom Cruise, falling in love with death, like the actual entity of death. He's not only killed the entire Marvel universe, but also every fictional character in existence. He's been a Night of the Living Dead, and most importantly, he cooked pancakes. 372,000 to be exact. However, besides all that dumb shit, one thing about the character, which has always been pretty consistent, is that behind the jokes, he is a deeply miserable person, constantly dealing with feelings of self-loathing, loneliness, and suicidal tendencies, which he can't even act upon because, you know, healing factor. Deadpool has always been seen as a kind of sad clown, using his humour as a way to cope with all the horrific stuff that's happened to him, rather than speaking to a therapist. The man is the very definition of mental illness, craving some form of acceptance from almost everyone he meets. Sure, depending on which comic you're reading, Wade can often become a bit of a meme, but he's always had this tragic side to him. Well, until this game happens. Published by Activision and developed by High Moon Studios, who had previously worked on a few Transformers games, the Deadpool game was announced way back in 2012 during San Diego Comic-Con, when a man dressed as Deadpool stormed the stage and politely took over High Moon's panel.
Is this in your face? Is this in your face? Is it bothering you? Deal with it! I am a hologram! This is not Kanye West in here. Do you speak English? Yo soy el jefe! Shout out to Tupac though, one love homie.
Deadpool then pointed everyone's attention towards the big screen with the announcement trailer for his very first game played, showcasing the game's violent combat and particular sense of humour.
We love videos with boobies!
The trailer also had Wade being voiced by none other than the funny Uncharted man, Nolan North.
Hey, I'm Nathan Drake!
Who had previously voiced Deadpool in a bunch of other games, including Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and honestly, he's a perfect fit.
The doctor makes mistakes! Stabby time.
Anyway, after this initial reveal trailer, the game's marketing campaign quickly begun, which consisted of Deadpool taking over High Moon Studios and apparently vandalising Amazing Spider-Man billboards. A lot of the marketing was actually done from Deadpool's point of view, with him writing an article on Marvel's website claiming he hired High Moon to make his game, and writing his own game fact sheet, again with that signature style of comedy, which hasn't dated this at all. That's probably the thing I noticed most while looking through promotional stuff for this game. The comedy is very of the time, as a lot of it relies on Deadpool just referencing things like fucking dubstep, or humour that falls under the lol, XD, so random category. Although, despite the specific brand of 2012 comedy, the game looked completely mental, with an endless amount of explosions, and Deadpool fans were probably just happy to be getting this version of the character, instead of whatever the fuck this was.
I don't like Ryan Reynolds at all.
Perhaps the biggest thing High Moon did during the marketing though, was announce a sweepstakes contest that would run during the Spike Video Game Awards, where the winner would be flown out to High Moon Studios and have their very own character put into the video game. Apparently, the winner of the contest was a guy from Atlanta called Bill Salina, and his character was supposed to be a pizza delivery guy you'd see at the start of the game.
I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days.
However, his character ended up being an enemy called Stormthrower, who will list off various pizzas as he attacks you. Oh, and one more thing to note, the budget for this game was reportedly around $100 million, meaning somehow Activision put more money into this game than Fox did with the 2016 movie. Clearly, Activision shoveled a huge amount of money into this game, so naturally when it launched in June 2013, everyone was excited to play it just to see how utterly insane this $100 million game could possibly be. But first, this video is sponsored by Gentle Bands. Hey you! Yeah, you watching this video right now. Look at your hands. Just as I thought. No rings and no style. Don't worry though, my man, because Gentle Bands has got you covered. See, for years, men's rings have been basic, plain, and overall uninspired. So Gentle Bands have made it their mission to forge rings out of only the most unique materials they can find, like ancient meteorites and dinosaur fossils. Take for example this ring I have as part of the Galactic Collection, titled the Galactic Envoy, made from tungsten and plated with 18 karat gold. This collection also has a plethora of other stylish sci-fi inspired rings like the Crimson Phantom, which not only sounds like a superhero, but is made from meteorite and dinosaur bone. I mean, honestly, if you collected all these rings, you could probably create an Infinity Gauntlet. Plus, if you'd rather keep your fingers free, you can also grab a matching chain to accompany your ring, and make sure you don't go anywhere without it, or worse, lose it on the bus. Seriously though, these rings and chains are super cool and even come packaged with a lovely certificate of craftsmanship. So if you're sick of wearing basic rings, head over to Gentle Bands or click the link in the description right now and use code AlexWebb to get 25% off your purchase. The game begins in Deadpool's dimly lit apartment, filled with an ungodly amount of trash, various weapons, and looking like it's about to collapse at any second. Here we find Wade watching TV while going through his answering machine, eventually coming to a message left by the actual president of High Moon Studios, Peter De La Peña, saying that they looked over Deadpool's video game proposal, but due to it not making any fucking sense, they've decided to politely decline. So of course, Deadpool does the logical thing and bombs the place. Peter then calls Deadpool back from his presumably destroyed office and says on second thought they're giving his game the green light and a copy of the script will be sent to his apartment. In the meantime, while you wait for the script to arrive, we can walk around Wade's beautiful apartment, doing a few different things like inflating a sex doll, using the computer, or calling Nolan North.
Nolan! Hey, what's up, buddy? We're making a game about me.
Is that it? Is that my deal? Die now, or help you, and die later. Oh, it's a tough call, but you know what? I'll take die now.
Yeah, well, fuck you, Nolan.
Eventually though, the script does get delivered, and upon reading the first page, Deadpool instantly rewrites the entire thing,
Behold!
making the rest of the game an absolute fever dream. Seriously, the only bit of coherent plot we get is that Deadpool is contracted to kill a media mogul known as Chance White. Who is that? I don't fucking know. Here's Deadpool in a bouncy castle. Although in fairness, Deadpool himself legitimately has no clue what's going on because he hasn't read the script, acting like your average Modern Warfare fan and just wanting to shoot stuff. The gameplay in itself feels very much like your average third-person action game from the early 2010s, with the only difference being that you're playing as this fucking maniac and have some lovely weapons at your disposal. Sure, the combat isn't anything new, but it certainly isn't bad either. Like, High Moon has clearly taken the mature rating and used it to create a satisfyingly brutal combat system, albeit a fairly button-mashy one. See, while Deadpool is very well versed in the art of punching dudes, he also has a very nice selection of weapons you can choose from, as you can mix and match what kind of firearms you want and pair them with 3 different melee weapons. Personally though, I never leave home without my Deadpool branded hammers. On top of that, there's also a few throwable items you can equip, most of which being explosives, apart from the fucking bear traps you can set. They did come in pretty handy though, and will be going in S tier. Obviously, all these weapons can be upgraded too in order to unlock some special attacks, do more damage, earn more money, or more importantly, carry more ammo. Seriously, I'm not kidding, this game throws like an entire army at you every 5 minutes, so you're really gonna need all the ammunition you can get. And a new costume by the looks of things. What a beautiful face you have, sir. However, if you're somehow wanting to take the more subtle approach, there is stealth here too, I guess. Now of course, the game isn't without its faults. Like anytime you're forced into combat while in an enclosed space, the cameraman will suffer an aneurysm. And despite the game only being like 7 hours long at a push, the combat can feel pretty repetitive at times. Although, I suppose this isn't helped by the huge lack of enemy variety. I mean, you're either shooting these soldiers, weird X-Men clones, or is that Dark Souls boss. To be fair though, High Moon kinda makes up for this with some insanely creative segments, utilising Deadpool's less than serious approach to the whole superhero thing, as you can quickly go from playing an 8-bit arcade game to contentiously slapping everyone's favourite Canadian.
That's for being short!
Honestly, I can't deny that this game has such a strange charm to it. Like there's a running gag where Deadpool will just abuse the game's budget, having way too many explosions, causing the game in itself to kinda break because High Moon have run out of money. Actually, while I'm on the topic, the humour here is obviously a large part of this game. I mean, it was all over the marketing, just look no further than the Comic-Con panel.
Just kidding, JK, LOLs, LOLs.
And the best way I can sum it up is by saying it honestly feels like a microcosm of 2012 internet humour, which as you probably guessed, doesn't really hit the same 12 years later.
You like tacos, Wade?
What the hell is even that?
Don't get me wrong, the game does have legitimately funny moments. I'd be lying if I said Deadpool didn't manage to scratch that dumb part of my brain where shit like this cracks me up.
Nice dick.
Although, I will say my sense of humour has been completely ruined to the point where I unironically laugh at pictures with the impact font. Anyway, overall, the humour here is very hit or miss, ranging from genuinely funny and clever to on par with a meme you see your Uncle Barry share on Facebook. To add to this, Wade is also constantly breaking the fourth wall and making dumb references.
Now let's roll out!
Wrong franchise, buddy.
Which I will admit is funny to begin with, and very accurate to the character, but after being subjected to it for a few hours, I don't think I was having fun anymore. Other than the dumb jokes, we get a few cameos from different X-Men characters, like Rogue and the aforementioned Canadian man. Most notably though, Cable makes an appearance.
When this is over, I'm gonna fuck you to death with your own broken feet.
Now, Cable's a pretty big X-Men related character in his own right, but for the sake of this video, all you need to know is that he's from the future, friends with Deadpool, and is here to tell you the plot. Unsurprisingly though, during all this long and boring exposition, Wade gets slightly distracted. Clearly, the game doesn't take itself seriously at all. I mean, Deadpool doesn't pay attention to anything that doesn't have jiggle physics, and this results in the story just becoming a series of psychotic events with very little storyline to actually piece anything together. From what I can tell, the game revolves around Deadpool stopping B-list X-Men villain Mr. Sinister, who's apparently trying to harness the powers of dead mutants. So of course, this leads to Deadpool releasing the souls of those dead mutants, and then serenading Lady Death. Did I mention you also have to wait in line? Now of course, High Moon isn't exactly going for an award-winning screenplay, and it's abundantly clear they want to primarily focus on Deadpool's chaotic sense of humour. But in prioritising that so heavily, they've really neglected the plot. This is kinda surprising considering the game was written by Daniel Way, who previously wrote the Deadpool comic from 2008 to 2012, and his run on the character is highly credited with making Deadpool so popular in the first place. Although, I should note, Deadpool fans have this man on trial for turning Wade into a bit of a meme. See, Daniel Way's run is rather polarising with Deadpool fans because while it did coincide with Deadpool's spike in popularity, the run also stripped away a lot of his darker characteristics and overall made him an even more unserious character. Now I'll be honest, when I read Daniel Way's run, I didn't think it was awful and actually quite enjoyed a few of the storylines. But then I made a horrible mistake and looked up the fan reaction to this run on Reddit, and holy shit, it wasn't pretty. Deadpool fans hated this book, as many felt like the humour was way too obnoxious and over the top, even by Deadpool standards, missing any kind of emotional complexity the character may have had, and instead focused on making him a goofy dude.
I'm sorry. I'm just in a silly, goofy mood.
So when it comes to this game, clearly Way wanted to take the same approach with an even bigger emphasis on the comedy. And while I suppose that might have worked for him in the comics, I don't really think it worked here.
You know what Daddy likes.
I mean, come on, the game even ends with Deadpool just punching Mr. Sinister in the dick, and then a giant shoe falls on it. Evidently, the story wasn't a main concern here, and while I can appreciate the sheer insanity, I think having, an actual plot might have benefited the game in the long run. Although, speaking of the ending, if you're a good boy and sit through all the credits, you'll be gifted with this masterpiece. I'm gonna hang that above my bed. Now, after finishing the game and enduring 7 hours of dick jokes, you'd think I'd come away absolutely hating this thing. But surprisingly, despite all its faults, I actually oddly enjoyed it. I may need to get my head checked. Genuinely, I can't explain it. I've rewritten this part of the video multiple times, but I still can't figure out why I have such an odd appreciation for this weird game. Like, it isn't winning any awards, but it doesn't need to. Deadpool is a fun game that not only embraces the character's insanity, it locks the fuck in and dives headfirst into it. Unfortunately though, while I kinda like this game, I don't think anyone else really did. Critically, Deadpool got a fairly mixed reaction, mostly getting around 6 out of 10s, currently sitting at 62% 98% on Metacritic with such glowing reviews like this one from the Stan Man. I think Stan's had a stroke. From what I can tell, most critics appreciated the unique experience Deadpool offered, but other than that it was mostly a forgettable game with repetitive combat which struggled to run on even the healthiest of Xbox 360s. Unfortunately, the middling reviews wasn't the biggest issue for this game, because despite a fairly strong marketing campaign and Deadpool's popularity being at an all-time high, nobody fucking bought it. Seriously, the game sold horrendously, with some articles even suggesting it sold less than 100,000 copies within its first month, which obviously isn't good, but then you remember the $100 million budget and it becomes much, much worse. Activision were furious. They had invested so much money into this thing, based on the calculation it would make them a fuckton in return, only for the game to get hit with mid-reviews and hardly sell. Basically, they fucked it, and High Moon was sadly at the brunt of Activision's wrath.
I fucking kill you. I kill your fucking kids, I kill your fucking wife, and I kill your fucking mom.
Being met with major layoffs and the surviving few probably being forced to pump out the next 200 Call of Duty games. Naturally, this also meant any potential sequel to this game was never going to happen, and any ideas of such were instantly scrapped. But hey, at the very least, we can always go back and play this one. Right? Not even 6 months after Deadpool hit the shelves, on the 1st of January 2014, Activision's license to create Marvel games expired, meaning Deadpool and pretty much every other Marvel game published by Activision up to that point were delisted. However, much like Deadpool himself, this game just refused to die, as in 2015, Deadpool magically reappeared on Steam, as well as a remastered version being released on both the PS4 and Xbox One, which sure is cool, but how the fuck did Activision manage to get the rights back? Did they break into Marvel HQ? Did they steal the game's source code? Was it a rogue Activision employee behind all of this? I mean, I wish it was that interesting, but realistically, it was probably because the 2016 movie was coming out soon. Anyway, after this sudden reappearance, Deadpool was quietly delisted again in 2017, and this time, he stayed dead. Although, you can still play the game if you're able to find a physical copy, and willing to spend half your life savings on it. As you can probably tell, Deadpool wasn't everyone's cup of tea. Like, your enjoyment level will vary drastically depending on how much you like boob jokes. But in saying that, I have to give credit where it's due, as for all its faults, Deadpool is an unapologetically dumb game that commits fully to the ADHD-riddled insanity present inside Wade Wilson's rotted brain. Is there more to Deadpool than this? Yeah. Does the game make any sense? Fuck no. Does it revel in its own stupidity? Absolutely. And honestly, sometimes all you need in life is to unplug your brain and enjoy a dumb game.
Now be honest. I'm not the only one with a little bit of shit in their pants right now, am I?
Don't you understand what I mean when I say so? You never do it now. You never do it now. I just don't know why you make me feel like this again.